In my field of work, a dominant value is measurement, whether you're an educator or an engineer or both. Measuring things is great because data helps us to make informed decisions, but it can be a problem when the data are skewed. We're seeing that now with so many cases of algorithmic bias, of people being subject to unfair decisions because of data bias, or people being excluded or harmed by systems because of data bias. And sometimes our measurements don't give us the whole picture. There's a saying that we measure what we treasure, but I think we need to flip that saying around. The work that's happening around things like invisible labor, for example, shows that not everything we need to treasure can be measured easily or quickly with the tools that we have on hand. So while it's useful to measure things, we still constantly need to ask whether we're measuring all the relevant things and whether the relevant things can be measured at all.
This is a really interesting one. In the bioethics community, I think a shared value is ensuring broad benefits. Those who are looking to shape bioethics policy are going to be deeply concerned with fairness and equitable resource allocation in healthcare. We want to enforce standards of care and uphold communal and societal values in medical settings. But at the same time, focusing on those broad benefits through codified rules and systems leads to overlooking opportunities to really treat each individual patient as unique and to provide focused value in clinical care, because we end up analyzing each case as a potential exception to a rule. So this sometimes stops us from realizing the cultural diversity and the plurality of values that are inherent to healthcare decision-making. A traditional dilemma in bioethics that really tugs at this value tension is around organ donation. So should organ donation be opt-in or opt-out? Opt-in is going to increase personal focused value because it puts the autonomy in an individual's hands to decide how they want to make that decision for themselves. But we know that opt-out is going to mean that we probably have more organ donors register by default, which is maybe a broader benefit. And if that is a broad benefit, how can we justify the distribution of that broad benefit and bring it to a codified rule or a principle that we apply in all cases? And those trade-offs between ensuring benefits and providing focused value are a big part of what bioethicists are trying to balance. But I think generally we lean more towards broad benefits, especially in a Canadian context. And this is going to be especially relevant as technology evolves, and we're looking more at things like ethics of human enhancement through gene editing technology or brain-computer interfaces.
So the dominant values in my field, I've got a couple of fields. I'm in both engineering and I'm in career development. So I'll talk about career development, and you may not think about the use of technology in it, but like everything, career development is seeing a rise in technology being used to match people to careers. And, the career development field, the dominant value is helping. Right? From moving from engineering into counseling psychology, I found people who had amazing warmth and empathy and communication skills. And the desire was to help people. And, that's exactly what's happening in counselors and psychotherapists, and they're helping people. But there are a lot of tools now coming into play in the helping professions. And where are the ones that have evidence that work? So in our effort to be helpful, we sometimes pick approaches or tools or technologies. So I sometimes share with people that I'm training, like, you would not accept a treatment from your doctor, right? A pill or some treatment if it weren't evidence-based. You just wouldn't. And yet so many other fields like career development is willing to have interventions that aren't evidence-based. So I think the move towards evidence-based practice in many fields, but including career development, especially as it applies to technology and reflective tools, is really, really required.
So in my work as a researcher and a designer, the value of human centricity has really reigned supreme for 15 or 20 years easily. And for most of the time, as so the role and centrality of design has sort of risen inside the business, that value system sort of like paradoxically has not been expanding, it has been narrowing. Counter to what many of its early practitioners like myself had hoped. And to be a little bit provocative about where we are today, when you look at a field or community like digital UX design, that space isn't even human-centered. It's user-centered. And what that actually means on the ground usually is that it's product-centered. And when you're product-centered, you are actually business-centered. And so, I think by virtue of all of you being in a program focused on technology stewardship, you're probably intuitively aware that a well-intentioned but narrow version of a value system like human centricity, it can actually cause quite a bit of harm. And we've seen that play out, I think, in a lot of the technology we have in our hands right now. And to use a bit of a design analogy, what I would really love to see is the whole field of design starting to think of itself a little bit more like urban planners who are trying to develop models of more livable and sustainable cities or communities. Instead of spending our time debating the finer points of interior design for condos. It's just far too narrow. Human-centered design without that kind of sort of really grand or broad scope, it's just too easily perverted. That's what we've seen and experienced. And what we need today is real society and planet-centered design.